Good morning. It is the 4th of July. We are going to go for the typical 4th of July cooking today. We're going to do ribs. And we've decided to do a little bit different smoke today. We're going to do a pecan smoke on the ribs. I usually like to do cherry or applewood, but I think today it calls for pecan. And interesting little fact, pecan is what Chili's, the restaurant, uses to smoke all their ribs. So we'll get right into it in just a moment, but wanted to get everybody ready, and welcome to I Cook and I Know Things. All right, guys. First thing, whenever we're setting up a new cook, especially for smoking, first thing you want to do is make sure you've got a good base of lump charcoal. If you're using a Kamado grill, a couple of rules. When using a Kamado grill, due to the fact that it has a ceramic base and a ceramic liner, you never, ever, 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 ever want to use lighter fluid of any kind. That includes lighter fluid that's in charcoal briquettes. So as a general rule, don't use charcoal briquettes in your Kamado style grill, because they oftentimes will not burn evenly, and secondly, they also sometimes incorporate lighter fluid into their manufacturing process. So when you are cooking with those, it will invariably, that lighter fluid smell will seep into the ceramics that you have for your grill and will definitely flavor your food. And there is absolutely nothing you can do once that happens. So, as I said before, never, ever, 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 ever use lighter fluid in a Kamado style grill. Now, I'm using currently a large grill by Sapphire Grills, which I really enjoy and love. One of the main things I really love about the Sapphire grill is they use 304 stainless steel for all their bands, their caps, everything. So I don't have to worry about rusting or anything like that if you buy a platinum style grill from them. So that is that I'm not sponsored by anybody. It's just my personal preference. So decide how you want. I'm going to say Sapphire grills are very expensive, and I was lucky enough to be gifted this as a gift from my wife at some point. So thank you. Now, one thing I'm going to show you first, I'm going to show you the inside of the grill. And as you see, I've got a nice layer of charcoal down here. I have emptied the ash pan ahead of time, and I am ready to start putting in one layer of my wood for smoking. Then I'm going to put another layer of coals and another layer of wood on top of that, and then I'm going to begin the process of smoking. Okay, so let's see if I can get this angled where I can show you the inside of the grill while I place the wood, so that you can understand one of the things we need to worry about. So just there we go. Let's see if I can zoom that down just a little bit more. There we go. All right. So I have some nice pecan cooking pieces here, and what I usually do is I arrange them pretty evenly around the outside edge at a certain point, laying at least two big pieces and some smaller pieces as I see fit. If I have small pieces, I usually spread it into a 5-star pattern, but if I have fairly large pieces like I've got today, I'm going to only do 4. Probably swap that one with a larger piece here. Okay, so now got my initial pile of pecan wood in for the coals, and then I'm going to place in the rack holder. And the only reason I'm doing this now instead of later is that I have found that The rack holder helps spread out the coals some when you dump them in. So just realize that. We're dumping the coals in. There we go. There we go. Now, please note, the longer you intend to cook, the more coals you're going to need. I have, and on occasion, put coals right up to the bottom of this when I'm starting out a smoke, but usually this is enough. So I'm going to put one more layer of wood on top, but I think I'm going to go with some pecan chips. Pecan chips are great as a good starter. Any kind of chip is great starter when you're beginning to smoke in your grill, because they will periodically add more heat, a little more, and get the fire spread a little faster. If you're wanting to cook a very fast fire, then you want to go to use chips a little more generously so that the fire will get spread quicker. Alright, so now that I've laid my chips and my wood in, I'm going to place a single starter at the center of the pile. And the reason for this is we don't want the fire to catch too fast and to overheat. The best way to get a good smoke fire going is keep that temperature between 200 and 225 degrees. So I'm going to go get a quick starter. Be right back. And we're going to get this this fire started, and then I'm going to, once I'm sure it's getting going good, I will put the heat deflectors in and the grills on, and then we'll go inside to prep the ribs for cooking. Please note, I am using only one fire starter. If I was wanting to, say, cook a steak or something, I use 3, 4, maybe to get the fire started quickly. But since we're doing a smoke today, we're only going to start with one. And I'm placing that dead center in the pile and getting it started. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close this down, and we're going to do two settings. First off, we're going to open the top of the grill. Hold on a second, let me get my top of my grill on my screen here. There we go. Open the top of the grill completely wide open. And then we're going to go down here to the bottom, sorry for my bad camera work, and make sure that it's completely open. Now what we're in is now starting mode. So if you watch the temperature on your grill, you're going to notice it start climbing. You're going to notice it spike and then go right back down. There's nothing wrong with that. That is normal. And I don't know if you just caught that, but we had a visitor come sliding through. A jay came swinging by me just now. So tell you what a nice day it is. All right, I'm going to stop the video now. We're going to go inside and start prepping the ribs. All right, we're inside. We have a nice rack of baby back ribs. As I've been told, the baby backs are generally more meaty than the spare ribs or the regular St. Louis style ribs. But the advantage that baby backs have, they cook quicker. They're more loin meat, so they're much more meaty in a way than the other types of ribs. Now, one of the primary things is they come cryo sealed like this, and one of the things that you want to do when you first open them is drain off what they call the myoglobin. This is not blood. It's water and fluids that come out of the meat after processing. So I know it looks like blood. It isn't. But it is a good idea to drain it off and dry the ribs so that you can put on your rub correctly. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay. So now I have the ribs laid out on the thing, on the thing here. Now, unfortunately, I didn't. Let me grab some paper towels. Unfortunately, I did not preemptively process these ribs, so we got a little chance to look at the processing method right here. So give me just a second. I'm gonna tilt the camera just a little bit. Okay, so I've turned the camera where you can actually see the ribs here, and you can see that there's a layer of skin here. It's called the silver skin, and a lot of people say leave it on. Some say take it off, but it's whatever you really want to do. My how do I say this? My preference is to take it off. The reason why is when you cook the silver skin, it becomes very crispy, and it actually provides a really sharp bite to the ribs, which some people just don't like, and I'm not one of those people. Now, I have learned a new method for removing this skin, and I'm going to try that today. It's basically taking a butter knife and peeling the silver skin up along the bone to get under it. Here in the middle of the actual ribs, and I'm going to keep doing that until I work it all the way through and can get under it and pull that up. Now, one thing to note, whenever you're working with silver skin, it's very slimy. So if you use a paper towel, you can get actually a really good grip on the silver skin with a paper towel. And so my recommendation is, when possible, get some paper towels ready before you begin this process. Okay, so let me get this under here. We'll lift it and pull it. And once I get it completely separated on both sides of the ribs, like it is right now, then you just basically get a good grip. You can see how it's pulled up there, and pull it up, and you have just removed 90% of your silver skin right away. The other piece of the process in doing this is squaring off the ribs, or making them in general a little more manageable and more even so that you don't get burned areas. So I'm going to take a sharp knife and cut off these last two ribs, which are in a very thin area here. To even up the process. See, all right, there we go. Let's pull this down, square them off just a little bit, make that nice and square, and cut off this extra little tab of flesh here. There we go. So we've got a couple of short ribs I'm going to throw on the grill as a separate piece. But in general, you've got your silver skin removed. You've got most of the fat removed. I'm going to pull some of this extra fat off. But there is your rack of baby backs ready to go. Now, some people will trim this extra layer of fat. I don't. I usually leave that in place. But that is personal preference, and you can do what you need to do. So I'm going to straighten this back up so I can see my face a little bit better and everybody can see what I'm doing. All right, now, next step in the process is, I'm going to throw these back where you can see it, see the rub, is we get our rub out. Now, my wife and I make our own rub, which is a very simple recipe, found it on the internet. Have modified it slightly, but that's what you should do. You should go out on the internet, find a rub you like, modify it, make a slight change, make it maybe a little more spicy, maybe a little less spicy, whichever way you like it best, and then write that recipe down and get it and mix it and have it ready for whenever you want to do this. So I'm going to start off by taking off one of my gloves here and opening my stuff and breaking it up so that it's done. Now, a lot of rubs have brown sugar in them. Brown sugar is pretty moist as a general rule. So over time, you'll notice that your rub tends to not stay all dusty, but tends to clump a little bit, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't change the flavor, doesn't change anything. But if you want to keep it dry, you have options. You can put in desiccators, which keeps the moisture down. But in my opinion, it's just better to let it and then take a butter knife and bust it up periodically so that you get a nice loose rub like this. Now, one final step before we begin, and that is binder. Lots of different people have different ideas about binder. Alright guys, I am noticing my grill temp is getting to right where I want it to be, so I'm going to pause for a second and lock down my grill. Please note, cooking on Kamado grills is kind of like driving a boat. If you speed up too fast, it takes a while to slow it down and get it back down to a reasonable temperature. So it's always a good idea to keep track of your temp as it's climbing and stop it when you get near or below or a little near your temperature that you really, really want for cooking. So mine went a little high, so I've choked it down. I'll come back out and check it in a minute to see if it's dropped back down to the range I'd like. Ideally, you want it between 200 and 225. If your grill runs a little hot, which mine does sometimes, then you'd like to drop it a little lower. Start at 200, and because over time, as more coals get involved, the grill will get hotter. All right, binder. This is the binder of choice. Now, what you can do, and what I have done on several occasions, is I usually find a bottle of French's yellow mustard, or yellow mustard in general, and let me see if there's a bottle in here. Okay. When I find the yellow mustard, if I have a half bottle and I don't need any more and I want to open a new bottle, I will take that half bottle and I will pour some Worcestershire sauce in it. And this is a way to make kind of what we call a smoking rub or a binder rub that adds more flavor. Now, one thing to note, you will not taste mustard. I don't care what anyone says. Binder is there to hold the rub on the skin and on the meat. It is not there for anything else. You will not taste it. I know. I have done this many, many times. Somebody telling you, oh, you'll taste it. No, you won't. Now, if you add things like Worcestershire sauce or something that's more pungent to it, you definitely will see that in the end product. But as a general rule, you'll never taste this. So I'm going to go ahead and spread some mustard on my ribs here. And get a nice little layer of mustard on it. Cover all the spots. Make sure you don't have any mists, because everywhere you miss, then the rub will not stick. So remember that. All right, I'm going to turn it over and rub it again. Sorry. It's always a good idea to have a clean hand, messy hand. Okay, so we're going to do that. And your messy hand is going to be what you spread your rub and your binder with, and your clean hand is what you're going to grab things and pour on with. So just keep that as a general rule. Okay, so I'm going to put a layer of rub on it. Be generous. Do not be stingy with your rub. Biggest problem a lot of people have is they don't have enough rub on it, and then when the binder and the ribs absorb that rub, then you don't have any flavor. So, a little trick I've learned is put your hand against the edge and run down it, and then rub it in as you run down the edge. This keeps the rib rub from falling into whatever you're into the plate or whatever you're working on. So got my first layer down. I'm gonna turn the ribs over and do the second layer. So as you noticed, I'm being generous. I am not holding back when I'm pouring this rub on. You will say, I'm wasting all this rub. Well, yeah, you are a little bit, but it's okay. Key thing is that if you don't get the ribs covered, then you don't have flavor on the ribs. Key thing, okay? There we go. There we go. And there we go. Okay. So now, key step that a lot of people avoid. I am bad about it. Let your ribs rest. Let them rest and absorb the rub and the flavors and all that. Now, if you can rest them in the fridge, that's great. If you don't have an open enough space in your fridge to do that, rest them on the counter. It's okay. All right, so while these rest, I'm going to go back out and check our grill temp and see if we're right where we need to be. Okay, guys, we're back outside. I'm going to flip the camera here and we're going to look. Now, I want you to notice something. If you can see it on the camera, I don't know if it's very visible, but you can see there's a thin wisp of smoke coming out of the grill. If that smoke's very, very white, you do not want to put your meat on yet. You want to wait until that smoke fades to more of a bluish color. And this is looking pretty good. My temperature is where I want it. As you can see on the temperature gauge at the bottom, it's just below 200, about 180, 190. And like I said, my grill runs hot. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put in the heat deflectors and the grill grates and get that going. One thing to note, whenever working with a hot grill, always wear protection. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open the grill, and I'm going to place these heat deflectors into position in the grill. Now, what the heat deflector does is, though it allows smoke and other things to come through, it does deflect the heat of the grill itself so that the ribs and items don't get burned. Now, some people use what they call water pans, and there's nothing wrong with using a water pan. I'm going to do something here, guys. I just realized I've set this wrong, so I'm going to turn this around before it gets too hot. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm going to place my grills on. Sorry, got a little smoke in my face. And then once this is on, I'm going to close this back up and stabilize the temperature one more time. One thing to note, whenever you open a grill, especially a Kamado grill, the heat can climb because you have more airflow into the grill, and that increases the heat of the grill. So when you first do this, you're going to notice the temperature drop way off because you've lost all the heat that's sitting in the dome. But then you're going to notice the heat climb a little bit, and then hopefully it'll stabilize back down. So we're going to wait a moment and take care of that. One thing to note, we've got lots of white smoke coming out now, so we're going to wait until that dissipates and gets back to the blue smoke we saw earlier. Smoke is now, I'm going to flip the camera around so you can see. The smoke is now back to its light blue colored phase, lightly smoking. And you'll notice that the ribs have rested and have absorbed that rub very nicely. Now, one thing to note, I did not put any binder on these ribs, and you'll see how it falls off. That's the difference between using and not using binders. So always use a binder. Okay, I want to put these on the grill now, and we're going to begin the process. Now, When you're cooking ribs, I have heard all different kinds of things. Some people say do this, some people say do that. My experience has been that when you're cooking ribs, if you're cooking spare ribs, 3-2-1 method is actually very, very good, which means 3 hours of smoking, 2 hours in a rat sealed environment with some water, and then 1 hour of actually basting and putting sauce on the ribs. When you're using baby backs, because they're smaller and not quite as hefty as the other ribs, I tend to smoke them a little less. I smoke them about 2 hours, and then I steam them or wrap them in a sealed environment for about 1 hour, and then do about a half hour of actual saucing. And they've come out perfect for me. But everybody's different. Everybody can do what they want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the camera around. We're going to put the ribs on the grill. Key things to remember are keep the ribs toward the center of the grill so that they're within the heat deflector range, so they're not getting direct heat. And third, make sure that you keep your temperature low and slow, because the longer they can smoke, the better. One little other interesting fact is that meat, when it's smoking, the colder it is, the better it actually takes smoke. So if you start out with a 40-degree piece of meat, it's going to take more smoke than a 50-degree piece of meat. So just remember that when you're adding flavor. Turning the camera. Okay. Place the ribs in the middle. And I'm going to place this little extra piece right here in the front. And then we're going to close the grill before we can lose any more heat. And we're going to let everything come back to temp. So, just letting you know, this is, we are now beginning the smoking phase. So I'm going to go set a timer. It doesn't have to be exact, just rough estimates, but as a general rule, that's what I do. So we'll check back in at the 3 hour mark, or 2 hour mark, on these ribs, and see where we're at, and then we'll begin the wrapping process and go from there. Okay, we are prepped for the next step in our process. I have some aluminum foil out to wrap our ribs with, and there is the ribs are about to come off for the smoking. They should be ending any time now. We should hear the alarm go off in just a minute or two. Once I do that, I'm going to take the ribs off, lay them on the lay them for wrapping, and then once we complete the wrap, we'll add a little bit of water in order to provide steaming, and then we'll put them back on the grill for another hour. All right, guys. Looks like we are pulling the ribs off. I'm going to pull off these little this little bit of ribs we got here first. I'm going to set them aside. We'll deal with that in just a moment. But the main ribs here, I'm ready to pull off. I am using my tongs. And the reason why I'm using my tongs, guys, is because it's easier to lift the ribs without letting them fall, and therefore they don't lose their ability. So I'm going to turn them over. We're going to put them in upside down on the piece, and then we're going to begin wrapping, and we'll add the water at the last step. So first we'll pull up the piece, and we'll take a little bit of water. We're going to pour down the middle of the concave side of the ribs, just a little bit, not a lot. Usually about 2 tablespoons is all you need. Then we're going to pull this up, and we're going to do a cookie wrap on the foil. Once we get it in place, we just got to get everything lined up and then do a cookie wrap. Now, what a cookie wrap is, most people don't know, is that you got a little line, you fold over the aluminum foil so that 2 pieces together create a seal. And then once you do that, you'll fold it one more time, to really seal that down, like we're doing here. And then on each end, we'll flatten it out and roll them up. Now what this should do, as long as you haven't popped any holes in it, is create a nice sealed environment for the ribs to steam in. We're going to do that. We're going to fill them up, get them steamy. So we're going to put these ribs right back on the grill. And I'm going to take my little set off and set them here. We'll have something to nibble on while we're waiting. Now these will not be as tender or as juicy as these ribs will be due to that fact. So closing her up and about set timer for 1 hour. Okay guys, steaming has completed. We've taken it out of the aluminum foil, and I've currently put these back on the grill so that I can start saucing them. So we're going to begin with just saucing these ribs up with some Sweet Baby Ray's. And as you can see, the meat is pulling away from the bone slightly. The ribs are pretty soft, and so we're in good shape here. I mean, I can leave them on the grill for a little bit longer to kind of put a nice crust on this, and then I'll turn them over and put a layer on the bottom side and try again. But just something so you can see. I'm going to go ahead and close this down, let it continue smoking, and then we're going to go over here and we're going to look. And you should have something similar in your foil when it comes out. If you don't, then most probably your seal on your foil broke, which means that a lot of the moisture escaped and your ribs are going to be a little bit drier. So remember that having the moisture in the bottom is really good. Another key item you can add to the foil when you're doing this is the butter. You can add pats of butter along with the whatever liquid you decide to use to steam your ribs with. Some people use applesauce, some people use beer. But put a couple of pats of butter sometimes, and that helps make it even more rich than usual. So we're back to letting this cook for a few minutes. I'm going to let the sauce set up for about 5-10 minutes, and then I'll open it up and start again. Alright guys, we're back. I'm going to flip the ribs, and we're going to put another layer of sauce on them. So hang tight. Good rule of thumb to leave about 2 or 3 minutes. Usually I try to do 5, but 2 or 3 minutes per side, just to kind of create a nice crust on them and a nice thickness. You're hearing the alarm going off for that 5-minute timer right now. So we're going to brush these down. I'm going to get these all covered up with this Sweet Baby Ray's. We'll give it about another 2 minutes on this side to thicken it up. And then I will flip them again. Okay. Alright guys, we're back again. I'm about to put the final coat on this. I'm going to flip it over one more time. So please be aware. Alright, whoops. Don't have a good grip. There we go. Flipping them over. And we'll put a little extra sauce on this and do it one more time. Okay. Now on this one, I'm going to pull them off the grill, and these should be done. We'll see how they come out in just a moment. Not quite as tender as I'd like, but I think this is going to be great. Have a great day. All right, guys. we got the ribs back in the house. As you can see, they look beautiful. We're going to probably take a knife here and split one off to see how good they are inside. So give me just a second, and here we go. Let's take one off the end here and see how we're looking. Oh yeah, there we go. And that's looking pretty good. So you can see inside looks really nice. Take a taste. Good stuff. Try it this year. Take care. Bye.